Hello there, and a happy new year. And I hope at least, that this year could actually change the way people think about this evolution. Well, at least this is my interest. Okay, so we were talking about human body, and we were trying to compare it with a processor. We were trying to compare the brain with the processor. So let's just talk about the computer. In a computer, we install operating systems. First things first, we design the processor, we put it there, we put all the peripherals, we put all the requirements that should be there, the motherboard and all the communication ports. The whole idea is actually there should be a controller that should be able to have some orders, and these orders should be able to be communicated and carried out. Okay, so that's the job of the processor. So what we do is, once we have the hardware ready, we try to install the operating system that will make use of the processor according to the best of its capabilities. So what we do is, we install the operating system. So what happens is, as soon as we put the installation disk, this installation disk carries out the entire installation of a certain operating system. If you are to install a Windows on a computer, it will never install a Apple operating system, Macintosh. It will never install Linux. It will never install any other operating system. It will only install Windows. And then in the Windows, if you have given the Windows 8 installation disk, it will not install Windows 98. It will only install Windows 8. So it's very much the input that decides what will happen, and then there is a certain time that it will take to have all these instructions, very complicated instructions, that will be placed inside the memory of the computer, and on the basis of which the computer will work in the future. Now, when certain time finishes, the installation completes, the computer reboots, and then it starts again. Now, once it has an operating system, it starts to work actually. So the first thing is, again, in a very basic interpretation, is, if you have power, the computer will work, whether it's a battery or a mains. And then once you have the power, what happens is, at the processor there is a data cable that is connected to the memory, and as soon as it gets the signal of the power, it starts fetching the instructions in the order they are stored in the memory to the processor, and then this order is followed by the processor to carry out these instructions. And we see all these things happening on our screen, and then there is again a certain time before we can actually use a desktop. This time is the time that computer takes to carry out these minimum instructions required for it to be operated. Now we try to compare this thing with the human body. So what happens when a male and a female intercourse, and there is no other way a human can actually be born except a male have an intercourse with the male. Sorry, a male have an intercourse with the female, and there is a sperm and there is an egg. This is the operating system that's getting installed, and the thing is gonna get made. So the operating system, the male sperm, and the processor, or the entire infrastructure, the egg. These two things combine. Whatever the sperm, the code, the genes inside the sperm, that's how you're going to have your baby. You can't have a baby varied to the genes that has been carried out or transferred by the sperm. In very simple word, if a white person is if it's the sperm of a white person, probably, most probably, the child will also be white. If we go further, we say then this installation takes place, and then there is a certain time that the child is actually into the human body, the shape of the human body. It doesn't come into this shape straight away after the intercourse has taken place or the pregnancy has been actually confirmed. There is a certain time, up to 4 months maybe, when the shape of the body, the child is formed within the the stomach of the lady, and then these things go on until we have the birth. So when the birth is actually the operating system has actually been installed and it has been fed into all these things, and now it's ready to function, and the birth happens and the baby comes out, and then that's the restarting of the computer. So now the input from the atmosphere will actually work, but the operating system is already there, all the software that was required in there. In computer we install Windows, and then with Windows we say, oh yeah, I'm fancy Word, and I fancy Photoshop, and I fancy MATLAB, and I fancy this and I fancy that. In terms of the human body, these things comes pre-built. So every human person comes with the software that is able to visually analyze things and make decisions, that is able to hear, unless it's an abnormal disabled person. So all these softwares, these are the software that deal with the, you get sound waves go into brain communicates, brain encodes them, decodes them. Sorry, the brain decodes these waves, and we know what's being said if we know this language. The same thing is the sensing. This is the software that actually decides which part of the body has been touched or burnt or cut or whatever. So we have all these senses. These are like softwares that which are installed within the human body, and once we're born, we have our operating system installed within the body, and we start working. So it's a very, very, very basic interpretation. It might need an hour presentation to actually symbolize, but I am of this idea, I'm of this ideology that the human body and the computer processor, they're very much similar in terms of how things work. The next thing is how about this human body being coming to all these sophisticated operating system and built-in software, and then the communication with these organs through this software, and then the decision, and all these things. And yeah, one more thing is the growth of the human body is based on a closed loop system. It's a closed loop system where you have a feedback, and then the input is accordingly adjusted. That's the closed loop feedback system. Feedback control, you might fancy. In closed loop feedback control of the human body, what happens is the genes play the most pivotal part. The most important thing is, what is the gene telling the body to grow up to? If it's a 6x6 coding from the genes, you will go to 6x6. Doesn't matter what. You might be very, very weak. You not get enough food, but still you're going to try to get to that level of the height. If it's telling you you are an intelligent person, your mind will grow to certain intelligence, although there are other factors. And the genes tells the size of the body, as well as like the teeth. We have two sets. One set goes out, falls out, and then we get another set, and then this set stays there until actually we're doing them through chocolates and toffees. So this is a closed loop system. So closed loop system is responsible for the growth of the body up to a certain level, and then there is a certain age during which all these things have to happen. You won't see a person growing when he's 40, but you will see a person growing when he's 4 a lot. So that is pretty much how I think that all these things work. And I mean, looking at all these things, it's literally impossible that these things can actually be there without anybody's involvement or designing. um, in good words, I would say they have to be a very very highly qualified engineer who has designed all these systems, who has put all these softwares, these communications, these ports in terms of organs, and these feedback systems and the control to grow the body to a certain level. And all these things are there because of this very highly qualified and competent engineer. And I call this engineer the god, and I praise him by saying the amazing creator. And this human body, which is his himself, he himself has praised this. This is an amazing creation. So I would say the human body is an amazing creation of the amazing creator. And that's it from me. Thank you.